Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me this afternoon for an update on operational changes at 3 of the 4 Quangos that fall under the Ministry of Public Works, they being the Bermuda Land Development Company, the Bermuda Housing Corporation, the West End Development Corporation, and golf courses. Before getting into the specifics of those changes, it is worth providing some background to the genesis of this entire project, a project that actually began on the 16th of July 2002, when the Cabinet decided that the Central Policy Unit should complete a review of 17 Quangos which focused on the following objectives: determine whether Bermuda's Quangos as currently constructed are meeting government's aims, and if not, recommend methods of achieving alignment. 2, determine whether there is accountability to the government, and if not, recommend an adequate structure to accomplish this. And 3, develop mechanisms for ongoing review. The scope of the review covered a wide range of topics covering the establishment and governance of each body, its existing relevance, feasibility, effectiveness, levels of accountability to government, expenditure, income, whether the work could be more effectively or more efficiently carried out within government proper or by some other means, determine governance and best practice in other jurisdictions, and develop a mechanism for ongoing review. All laudable goals. Sadly, that report entitled Untangling Bermuda's Quangos, a review of Quangos in the Bermuda government, presented in October 2003, and the subsequent Sage Commission report presented a decade later, in 2013, have largely languished on a shelf during those intervening years. This government took the decision early in our administration to have another look at the reports and their recommendations with a view to actioning some of those items. Upon assuming this role, I asked the 3 CEOs to meet on a regular basis to discuss ways we could merge operations utilizing the recommendations of the Quango report on the basis as the basis for those discussions. It makes no sense that on an island of 21 square miles that we have 3 organizations, 3 CEOs, and 3 CFOs, and all the attendant officers, machinery, and staffs carrying out very similar functions for the most part, with the full demonstration of bureaucracy on display. As an example, the BLDC have oversight of properties in the west end of the island. That means that regularly they deploy staff and equipment from St. David's to cut grass in Somerset and Southampton, when it would seem logical to have the team in the west cut the grass in the west. There are many more examples of duplication of effort that were evident during those discussions, and I am certain more will be uncovered now that the circle for discussion has been expanded to the respective teams at supervisory level. In July of this year, a decision was made to take some action as a result of those discussions. In consultation with the other shareholder of BLDC, the Minister of Finance, we agreed that Phase 1 would be some reduction in expenses and merging of functions between the BLDC and the BHC. As a result, the following decisions have been made. On the 28th of September this year, a freeze on all new hires was issued to all 3 Quangos. On October 31st this year, under a mutual agreement, the CEO of Mr. Francis Mossenden will separate from the BLDC. We are having further discussions with the CFO, Mr. Anthony Richardson, about his future with the BLDC as he focuses on the completion of financial audits for 6 years that remain outstanding. Effective November 1st, the BHC General Manager, Major Barrett Dill, will assume management responsibility for the BLDC in addition to his responsibilities at BHC. Effective November 1st as well, the BHC Finance Manager, Mr. Mark Mello, will assume financial responsibility for the BLDC in addition to his responsibilities at BHC. The process of handover of both of those responsibilities will commence on Monday next. Responsibility for Daniel's Head will shift to WEDCO, who have been tasked with its management and, as a first step, the removal of the accommodation frame and canvas structures. The BLDC board will remain intact and continue their work under the new management team. Leading up to the events above, I have this week met with the staff at BLDC, BHC, and WEDCO to brief them on these changes directly and answer any questions they may have. I assured frontline staff that their jobs are secure, and in fact, in some instances, there may be expansion in some areas. With regard to next steps in this exercise, the focus of Phase 2 will shift the spotlight to WEDCO, and in a similar collaborative approach, the team will review their operations with an eye on recommending greater efficiencies there as well. As the Ministry of Public Works contains the largest number of industrial workers within government, I also arranged to brief the President of the BIU, Mr. Chris Furbert, on the forthcoming changes at the Quangos. With regard to the fourth Quango, under the Ministry golf courses, the internal board discussions are ongoing, but I expect to be in a position to report in the not-too-distant future on movements in that area as well. We view these changes as an opportunity to immediately effect some cost savings by reducing duplication of roles, combining responsibilities, and bringing a sharper focus to deliver on the government's mandate to control costs and operate more efficiently. The process is ongoing, and those discussions will continue with key stakeholders, and further enhancements can be expected going forward, and the public will be kept informed of developments. I wish to thank the outgoing CEO of the BLDC, Mr. Francis Mussenden, for his years of service leading the BLDC, Mr. Andrew Dias for leading the team at WEDCO, and Major Deal for agreeing to assume the interim leadership of BLDC while also leading the BHC team. And finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the boards of all four entities who willingly give of their time and talents in support of our community. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Members of the media, any questions? Paul?
Good afternoon, Minister.
Afternoon.
Just wondering what kind of cost savings is expected in the emergency?
Well, immediately it will be the salaries of those two individuals. Mm-hmm. And those cost savings will go out exponentially as we reduce fuel and wear and tear on vehicles and staffing, traveling time across the country.
Are there any further cost-saving number for down the line? What this is going to look like when?
What this will look like is that we have three of each in every type of management position you can imagine. And what I've said to them is that we will have a look at how those roles are going to evolve, but we cannot continue in the vein of having triplicate of every type of job that exists at management level in all three of those entities.
Will the combining of some of these positions, in your opinion, have any impact at all on the service that's provided?
Yes, I think services will improve. Similar to what we were doing in the ministry in relation to parks and the roads crews of the Ministry of Public Works, in terms of the work that they do on the roadsides. Instead of one group cutting hedges and then driving away and the next group following behind them to cut the grass that the people that cut the hedges stood on, they are doing both of those jobs amongst each of those groups, and so it's leading to greater efficiencies and eliminating the need to increase staff.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that concludes our press conference.
Afternoon, Minister.
Afternoon.
It wasn't too long ago BRDC went to the public looking for input on Market Wharf.
Yes.
What's the government's...
Market Wharf and Marginal Wharf, depends on what you call it. Both of those names would be correct. Let me see if I get this right. I know that, I think I've got this right in terms of the cargo port idea that process, RFP process has concluded, and they are looking at the response, because they had one response to that effort. The RFP in relation to the power station was expanded into, I believe, November or December, and so that process is ongoing and will continue.
Thank you very much.
Yep.